3.0 brings us not only playable Bell and Wise, but more so importantly, Velina. Well, less specifically Velina, and more so her new element, Wind. Wind does not behave like our other elements do, so today let's talk about the differences, what Wind, Windswept and Vortex actually are, and of course, how they work. But before that, a word from today's sponsor, EnjoyGM. If you're looking for a safe, affordable and convenient top-up platform, EnjoyGM is your go-to choice, just as it is for millions of players worldwide. Simply enter your UID and server info, no password or account login is needed, so it is fast, secure and risk-free. And as a new user, you will receive an 8% site-wide coupon, and you can enjoy discounts of up to 23% off on popular games like Neverness to Everness. For example, the 6,480 plus 1,600 pack can drop as low as 80 USD. Please note the discounts may vary by region, and it is not just Neverness to Everness. EnjoyGM regularly runs promotions across a wide variety of popular games. The more you top up, the more you save. And the best of all, topping up on EnjoyGM still lets you claim in-game first top-up bonuses and also monthly rewards, so you don't miss out on any perks. EnjoyGM works with multiple global and local payment channels, so you can use what you already trust, and with EnjoyGM being PCI DSS certified, your every payment is encrypted and meets the highest global security benchmarks. EnjoyGM also holds a consistently high rating with tons of genuine reviews from users worldwide over on Trustpilot. So what are you waiting for? Ready to save? Just click my link below to get started. Thanks to EnjoyGM for sponsoring this video. Let's begin by clarifying the terms. Wind refers to the element itself, Windswept refers to both the anomaly damage as well as the anomaly aura, and a Vortex is the wind equivalent to disorder. To clarify those points further, let's make some comparisons for easier understanding. Your Disc 5 might have a fire damage bonus main stat, but it might also be wind damage. This is the element and the elemental damage. When you trigger Assault, the enemy will also be inflicted with a flinch, or if you trigger Burn, the enemy might become inflicted with, well, Burn. Flinch, Frostbite, Burn, Corruption and Shock are the anomaly auras, and likewise is Windswept. If the wind anomaly bar is full, the enemy becomes windswept and also takes windswept damage. Windswept lasts for 30 seconds. Wind damage and windswept damage, however, are different, such as electric damage and shock damage are different. The first refers to the element type and the latter to the anomaly type damage. However, in contrast to the other elements and anomalies, Windswept has a few very important differences in how it works with Vortex, but to understand those, we will need to make sure that we understand how disorders work first. Disorder is triggered if an anomaly aura is applied upon an already existing different anomaly aura, which is then removed. So for example, if we trigger Assault upon a burning enemy, Burn is removed and Disorder is triggered, dealing some damage and daze based on the time remaining of the removed aura for the latter. The Disorder is attributed to the aura owning element. Means if we trigger Assault upon a burning enemy, Burn is removed, Flinch is applied and we trigger a Burn Disorder. Understanding this, that means, well, in an ideal scenario that is, we trigger anomalies and hence disorders in tandem, and the enemy will always have one or another anomaly aura. This is different with Wind and Windswept, however. First up, Windswept is the only element aura that always has priority, which effectively means if applied once upon the enemy will always be windswept and also only be windswept. Windswept absorbs other element auras to infuse itself. This infusion is called contamination, but I will just call it infusion for the sake of simplicity. This works the same way Yuzua's flavor matching works, with the first non-wind attack of an owner with the same element being the infused element. We talk more about this towards the end. For now I want to focus on Windswept being the only aura. This is super important to know and understand because this has a lot of implications. The sets Inferno Metal and Thunder Metal require an active Burn or Shock aura respectively to work. But with a wind character in the team, and hence Windswept, there is no active burn or shock aura. We only have Windswept and no other anomaly auras, means that those sets simply stop working. Chaotic Metal weirdly somewhat-ish works, however, as it only requires an Ether Anomaly instance to trigger, and the Corruption Vortex does that exactly once. That does not mean that the set is great with wind, in fact it isn't, but at least technically Chaotic Metal works. A bloom deals damage based on the current anomaly aura on the enemy. With Windswept being the only aura on the enemy, all blooms will always be Windswept blooms. This is especially important for Velina, whose guide you should definitely watch right here after this video. The most important point, however, should be that Windswept cannot trigger Disorder. Instead, Vortex will be triggered. Disorder and Vortex behave pretty similarly to each other, primarily being different in name, as well as with a Windswept being a priority aura, which means, again, rather than the previous aura being removed upon triggering Vortex, Windswept will also absorb the other element to override its infusion. Because of this, the order we apply the elements in actually matters more here. If we apply a non-wind anomaly upon a windswept enemy, only Vortex is triggered, and it will always deal the maximum damage. If we apply Windswept upon a non-wind anomaly, an instance of Windswept damage triggers as well as Vortex, with the latter's damage being calculated based on the remaining time of the non-wind anomaly, pretty similar to Disorder. Well, that and also triggering Vortex does also not inflict any daze. However, it does generate decibels just as Disorder does. However, wind can be polarity disordered, and even if the polarity disorders are rather weak to say the least, they are at least possible, just your normal disorders are not. It should also be mentioned that a Vortex is classified as an anomaly, and while anomalies usually cannot crit, assaults can if Jane is in the team. And that simply means, because, well, Vortex is an anomaly, that the Assault Vortex can crit as well. And in fact, Jane gets a massive boost with Wind being released, and honestly, this should not be underestimated. Lastly, as for the anomaly itself, the build-up threshold is also different, following a much shorter curve for the first two anomalies before falling back into a linear graph. Which means it is very quick and easy to apply the first two Windswepts, which can be important when looking at the anomaly aura, its effect, and also the infusion. Each anomaly aura then comes with also a more or less unique effect. Flinch increases the days taken, Frostbite grants an additional 10% crit damage bonus to attacks on hit, and so on. Windswept grants a 10% direct damage bonus to wind, as well as the infused element. Direct damage is a new, unique final multiplier, and as the name implies, increases damage dealt by all direct attacks. It is, to be fair, very difficult to narrow down what exactly counts as a direct attack. So, at least for now, we will simply assume that most attacks and skills are treated as direct attacks, and anomalies, blooms, disorders, and vortex are not. Because this direct damage multiplier is a separate final multiplier, it is very good. And technically, this direct damage multiplier can also scale off a stat called Tempest Coefficient, but at least as of right now, there is no implementation of such. That being said, if you would like to reread the information provided in today's video with some extra numbers sprinkled in, I would forward you to Leafer's Google Docie, and I will leave a link to Leafer's social as well as the Google Doc down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment, and of course join the Discord. Also, if you want some cool merch, we have merch now. Yippee! A link is in the description. A special thanks goes to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. If you wish to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description, or, well, simply click the join button right below this video. And as always, I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace!